So the functions of money. So it's a medium of exchange, so an intermediary used in trade to avoid the inconveniences such as the double coincidence of wants of a pure barter system. So it's a store of purchasing power, something that people use to transfer purchasing power from the present to the future. It's a measure of value or unit of count, something that can be used to value goods and services, record debts, and make calculations. In other words, it's a measurement for value. Imagine trying to do accounting in a barter system. It'd be impossible. So, characteristics of money. So, why is the Canadian dollar considered money, but money from the Monopoly game not? What gives a $20 bill or a $100 checking account entry its value? So, feel free to put your answers in the chat.
The people that live
Yeah.
here give it value.
Yes, exactly. That's a good answer. Yeah, it gives it there's value in it because the yeah, because people trust it. Yeah, the people here trust it, and also the government guarantees it. So that's yeah, good answers. So also a big part of its value is that the Canadian taxpayer is always there to pay off government debt. Like if the government is in a debt crisis, the Canadian taxpayer is there to pay it off. So that backup from the Canadian taxpayer is one of the things that gives it value. So yeah, also Christabel said the value given to the money equates number slash fraction of goods. Yes, exactly. So it's only as valuable as what it can buy. So as long as it can buy something, it has value. So yeah, acceptability, legal tender. Our acceptability is strengthened because government has designated currency as legal tender. That means that paper currency must be accepted in payment of a debt. Relative scarcity. So money derives its value from its scarcity relative to its utility or want satisfying power. Sand could never be used as money since it is everywhere. So the scarcity, rareness drives value in a lot of cases. So that's one of the reasons why money has value. Durable. To retain its value, perishable items would not serve well as money. So like a fruit, like let's say a banana, it wouldn't be good as money because it would just disintegrate. So the money wouldn't be worth anything. So you'd have to have something that's durable, that's not perishable. Characteristics of money, portable. For example, the digital money in a bank account can be instantly transferred to buy goods and pay financial obligations. Divisible, money should be capable of being divided into smaller units and enable it to purchase both high and low price commodities. Suppose we used animals as money, then nothing could be worth less than an animal because you cannot divide a living creature into smaller pieces. So that would be a problem. Yeah, that would become a real issue because we'd have to have an animal for every cent, basically, for digital transactions, and then for anything hard money, every animal would have to be a nickel. So, because the penny has been eliminated, so that would be a real challenge. Yeah. So, but the most important characteristic is acceptability. It must be generally accepted by everyone. Without this, an object is not money, no matter how it scores in terms of the other characteristics. So that's the problem Bitcoin has, is that it's not accepted by everyone. It's only accepted by very few people for transactions, and it's just not accepted. You can't pay for groceries with it. Can't pay anything for it except for maybe a Tesla, but that's it. There's no other things you can buy with it. So there's issues with it being can't be considered as money because it's not accepted by everyone. So playing cards were used as money because they had a shortage of gold and silver coins. And they used playing cards because they're rigid, made of stiffer cardstock and perfect for the rigors of circulation. The backs were blank, can writing a value, and for others to sign their names. To identify the different values, the cards were cut into different shapes. Merchants were encouraged to accept playing cards as payment with the promise that they would be exchanged for gold and silver coins when the fresh shipment arrived from France. Deposit takers. So now that we have defined the functions money serves, let's examine the system in which it operates as well as the supply of money. So the supply of money is closely associated with institutions such as deposit takers, who accept funds provided by savers and lend those funds to borrowers and hold cash reserves to meet the needs of depositors withdrawing funds. The Canadian financial system. So the four traditional pillars of the Canadian financial system were charter banks, trust companies, insurance companies, investment dealers. Financial deregulation allowed institutions in each pillar to perform a wider range of functions. While 80 chartered banks operate in Canada, 6 big banks dominate the sector: RBC, TD, Canada Trust Bank, Scotiabank, BMO, CIBC, and the National Bank of Canada. So TD and Canada Trust, they merged a long time ago. So that's the same company. Yeah. Charter banks and neobanks. So charter banks are deposit takers allowed by charter to offer a wide range of financial services. Neobanks are deposit takers that are not chartered and have more specialized services. They include trust companies, mortgage loan companies, credit unions, and Case Populaires. So RBC has the most assets out of any bank in Canada, while TD is close behind. Scotiabank is not far behind either. BMO is about 500 billion. CIBC is about close to 400 billion. National's at almost 200 billion. Other domestic banks are about 51 billion. Trusts and mortgage loan companies are about 53 billion. And then credit unions and Case Populaires are about 300 billion. So with a credit union, it works differently because it provides, you basically have ownership in the credit union when you put your money into that there, and then you get a dividend from their earnings. So that's how it works compared to RBC, TD, Scotiabank, BMO, or CIBC, where if you put your money in their bank, you just get interest on your deposits, so you don't actually own the bank. So it's a different setup. Yeah. So the big six charter banks hold the lion's share of Canadian charter bank assets, which include funds given out as loans as well as other forms of financial holdings. Their combined assets are over 10 times those of Canadian year banks. So components of the money supply. Total stock of money circulating in the economy is the money supply. What constitutes money? So there are various possible components of the money supply. Two key components are currency includes notes and coinage. Demand deposits are funds, bookkeeping entries to which depositors have immediate access. These are the most liquid forms of money. So other components include notice deposits or funds for which deposit takers may require notice withdrawals. Term deposits are funds to which depositors have no access for a fixed period. Foreign currency deposits are funds held by Canadian residents that are valued for foreign currency. Money defined. There are four common definitions of money in Canada. M1 plus includes currency outside banks, publicly held demand deposits at charter banks, and checkable notice deposits at the charter banks near banks. So M1 plus is the closest, like it's the most liquid form of money. So it means that you can spend it. That you can spend it without any issue. So you don't have to wait to spend it. It's ready to be spent at any moment. That's what M1 plus is. M2 is when it's money that isn't exactly spendable at one time. Like some of it you'll have to wait a bit until you can spend it. So it's M1 plus notice deposits and personal term deposits at charter banks. So it may take, let's say, 3 days to spend it because it has to clear, but it's spendable within like a 3 day period, while M1 plus is spendable immediately. So I'd say M1 plus is spendable immediately. M2, it takes about 3 days to clear to spend. M3 consists of M2 plus non-personal term deposits and foreign currency deposits at charter banks. So this could be more than 3 days. So it could take longer than 3 days to clear and spend. So yeah, so it takes longer than the M2. M2 plus consists of M2 plus corresponding deposits at near banks and some other liquid assets. So most liquid is M1 plus to least liquid, which is M3. So when it becomes less liquid, it takes longer to get the money to spend. It takes longer, and also it's costlier. So it takes longer and it may cost more to make it ready to spend if it's less liquid. Yeah. So yeah, ranges. Ranges about M1 plus is the smallest. M2 is second smallest. M2 plus is third smallest. M3 is if you add it all together. Um so M3 would have everything together, all the money supply, while M1 plus would just be the the money you can spend right away. So demand and checkable notice deposits make up approximately 90% of M1 plus, while charter bank non-checkable notice and personal term deposits make up almost half of M2. These deposits are less dominant in M3. M2 plus includes deposits made in near banks as well as other liquid assets, as well as similar deposits made in charter banks. So active learning. What are former deposits held in banks that are available by making a cash withdrawal or writing a check? So demand deposits. Yes. Direct. Oh, good try, Christabel. So it would be demand. Yeah, good try. So direct deposits would be like what you use for your paycheck. So direct deposit in your account. Demand deposit would be you can pretty much spend it at any time. So you could take a cash withdrawal of it or write a check. It's spendable immediately if you wish. You don't have to wait any time. You can spend it any time. So what is that require the depositor to commit to leaving their funds in the bank for a certain period of time in exchange for a high rate of interest are also called what? So they wouldn't be very liquid. So that you may have to wait um more than 3 days to get your money. Yes, B. So yeah, certificates of deposit that require the depositor to commit to leaving their funds in the bank for a certain period of time in exchange for a higher rate of interest are also called time deposits. So it wouldn't be C because money market funds are you can sell it pretty quickly. They're as good as cash in a lot of cases. Um it may take 3 days maximum. Like if it's in your investment account, if a money market fund is in your investment account, it may take 3 days to clear it because usually when you sell an investment and you want the money to go into your checking account, it takes about 3 days for it to be able to transfer. Um, but with time deposits and certificates of deposit, it may be more than 3 days. Yeah. So generally investments take about 3 days to clear, and then certificates of deposit and time deposits may take longer than 3 days. Yeah. So if Roger deposits $240 cash into his checking account at a commercial bank, has the money supply changed? So Curtis says no. No amount in circulation has decreased, amount in deposit has increased, but total is the same. So it cancels each other out. So yeah, good job, Curtis. If later on Roger transfers this $240 from his checking account to his savings account in the same bank, has M1 plus changed? Has M2? Yes, M1 plus is less because demand deposits decreased. M2 does not change because although there are more notice deposits or less demand deposits. So Curtis is correct. So consider the following money supply data in billions of Canadian dollars. What are the values of M1 plus, M2, and M3? So, um, so yeah, um, feel free. So, so feel free to use Google for this. So I see Curtis got it. M1 is 112. So you're correct. M1 is 112. What about M2? I know you saw it, but we'll keep trying. So what about M2? So Curtis is 327. Yes. So it's M1 plus notice and personal term deposits. So it'd be the 112. So yeah, 112 plus the notice and personal term deposits. So it would be the 112 plus 215. Yeah. So yeah, the M1 plus non-checkable notice and personal term deposits. So what about M3? What would M3 be here? So Christabel got 464. Yes, so it would be M2, which is 327, plus certificates of deposit, which is 137. So yeah, so that'd be 464. Excellent work, all of you on that. So choosing a definition. Some economists believe that M1 plus is the most accurate definition of the money supply. Other economists prefer M2 plus, especially of recent innovations in payment methods. So credit cards make it more convenient for purchasers to use the credit card company's deposits for payments purposes by borrowing funds for short periods. The use does not increase the money supply. So I'll ask you, what is the best measure? M1, M2, M2 plus, or M3? So like you could argue any way and you could be correct. There's a lot of good answers for this here. Yeah. So for me, I would say M2 plus because of credit cards and debit cards and mobile banking. I would say because it's pretty easy to do electronic payments now. So I would say M2 plus, but maybe 30 years ago, M1 plus be better because credit cards were not what they were, not what they are today. You had to, it wasn't instant for credit cards back then. So M1 plus would have been more accurate 30 years ago, but M2 plus, I would say now is money. Debit cards add to the convenience of using your own bank deposits for payment purposes by allowing funds to be instantly moved electronically. So yeah, I agree, Christabel. M2 plus thanks to technology, yes, because banking has become fully technology oriented. The So when the central bank increases the money supply, they don't actually print the money anymore. They just put in a number in their computers and then it's in the money supply. So they just put it in digitally. So there's no actual cash being printed. That's what the US central bank was doing during the Federal Reserve was doing during COVID, is that they were just entering numbers for money. They didn't actually print any paper. So it's fully technological now. They can print so much money through just entering numbers, not even printing a dollar of like paper currency. So simple model of the money market. So now learning simple model of the money market here. So the money market is the cornerstone of monetary policy. More on this in the next chapter. Like in any market, four important elements: equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, supply and demand. Supply, for simplicity's sake, we consider the M1 plus definition of money. Demand, asset demand, transaction demand. Interaction determines price of money. What exactly is the price of money? Interest rate. So opportunity cost of holding money. It is what is sacrificed as a result of holding money M1 plus rather than investing it in earning interest, e.g. a bond. So holding paper currency, there is a opportunity cost because you could be investing that. So the opportunity cost of holding paper currency is the lost income from investing. So that's why holding cash is not a good idea, because you're missing out on the interest you could earn investing. That's why holding cash is there's a big cost of holding cash, because you could be making a lot of interest and income on investments there. So money demand. There are two types of money demand. Transactions demand is related to money's use as a means of exchange to make transactions and varies directly with real output and the price level. Asset demand is related to the money's use as a store of purchasing power and is inversely related to the nominal interest rate. Money demand and the money supply. Money demand represents the amounts of money demanded for both transaction and asset demand purposes at all possible interest rates. Is represented by a schedule or curve. Money supply is a set amount determined by government decision makers. Is represented by a schedule or curve. So demand for money, because a greater quantity of money is demanded at lower interest rates, the money demand curve is negatively sloped. So it's negatively sloped because they want to borrow at lower interest rates because it's cheaper to pay for the borrowing costs. That's why. So lower interest rate, more money, because people can borrow easier at lower interest rates. An interest rate change causes a change in asset demand for money, a movement along the money demand curve. For example, a rise in the interest rate causes a decrease in the quantity of money demanded from point B to point A. So higher interest rate, people demand less money because they have to pay more for borrowing it. So they're going to demand there's going to be less of quantity demanded. So an increase in real output of the price level causes money demand to increase at all interest rates, as shown by the shift from D naught to D1. Because government policymakers determine the supply of money at any given time, the money supply curve is a vertical line of that amount. Any change in the money supply results in a shift of the vertical line. So if the money supply increases, the interest rate goes down. And I'll show you why. So when the money supply increases, the interest rate goes down. So this would be, so as you can see here, if it goes from here to here, the interest rate went down. So as you can see, it went from here to here. Yeah. So yeah, if the money supply increases, the interest rate goes down there. Yeah, as you can see there. So equilibrium in the money market. So equilibrium in the money market occurs at the intersection of the money demand and money supply curves. The equilibrium interest rate is inversely related to the money supply. So when the interest rate exceeds the equilibrium value, the quantity of money supplied exceeds quantity demanded. This surplus leads to more buying of bonds, forcing bond prices up and the nominal interest rate down until the quantity of money demanded and supplied are the same. When the nominal interest rate is below the equilibrium value, the opposite occurs. A shortage of money pushes the interest rate up until the equilibrium point is reached. So goldsmiths as bankers. So as more goldsmiths began to issue these receipts, it became possible to take a receipt to any smith and cash it in. Gradually, the receipts began to circulate as paper money. So how the money supply worked initially was that people people had gold and they exchanged their gold for paper receipts at the bank. And then what happened was the bank ran out of the bank didn't have enough gold, and they said that they did, but they didn't. So they ended up just getting rid of the gold and just staying with paper receipts. That's how money was created. They got rid of all the gold and they just stuck with paper receipts. And I'll show you a video with this in a bit. So fractional reserve banking system. Goldsmiths quickly realized that not everyone comes at once to redeem their gold. Why not lend out gold coins with safe and charge interest? Next, they began to lend out receipts for gold. Created when the number of receipts was greater than coins is safe. Money is created out of thin air through lending. So they just lent out receipts for gold, and then there wasn't enough gold to be exchanged for the receipts. And yeah, there's just more receipts than gold, and then they just got rid of the gold. Yeah. So yeah, they got receipts for the gold, then the bank kind of ran out of gold and they just stuck with the receipts and that was money. So in the past there were companies that issued their own money. So Molson's issued their own money. And other companies did. And yeah, they used to do it like that, and now it's coming back with rewards points. So, for example, Tim Hortons has a reward system, Starbucks has a reward system, a lot of companies have reward systems now, and this is coming back. So they're issuing their own currency in that case. And what they're doing with their rewards points when they're not being used is that they're investing them into investments that their company can make a lot more money with. So this is coming back. They're issuing their own currency in terms of rewards points. So Tim Hortons, for example, the rewards point system, they're using that to invest it when it's not being used, and they're becoming banks. Like all of these companies are becoming banks and they're doing this. So it's a great way to make more money for them. And it's also a good opportunity with skills and finance here to work for one of these companies doing those systems and talking to recruiters at these companies like Tim Hortons. They need people that have this skill set in finance to do that. Also, even working in biotech, there's likely biotech companies that want to get into that, like the with a lot of customers just investing reward points. So that's a potential option too. So this is the look of the Bank of Montreal currency here. Molson's Bank. So yeah, this is the balance sheet for banks. So cash and vault deposit at the central bank, that's reserves. Personal, corporate, and government checking accounts, savings accounts, term deposits, or deposit liabilities. What is a bond? It is an IOU from a company that has borrowed money from an investor. When a bank buys a bond, it is lending money to the issuer of that bond. So yeah, here the reserves, loans, and bonds are assets. Deposit liabilities are liabilities slash loan slash debt. So that's how the balance sheet works here. And then whatever is left over is owner's equity. So ideally for for an investment, you want owner's equity to be high compared to debt. So that's ideal for an investment. So money creation. Desired reserves are the minimum cash reserves that deposit takers hold to satisfy anticipated withdrawal demands. The desired reserve ratio equals desired reserves divided by deposits. So based on this ratio, we can figure out if a bank is over or under reserved. So at times deposit takers find their cash reserves exceed desired levels or they have excess reserves. Excess reserves equals cash reserves minus desired reserves. For example, Charter Bank with deposits of $100 million and desired reserves of $10 million may find itself holding $14 million in actual cash reserves. So 14 million minus 10 million equals 4 million. Because idle cash reserves earn no profit, deposit takers will try to transform any excess reserves into income producing assets as quickly as possible. Therefore, they lend out the full amount of excess reserves. In our example, the bank will lend out the 4 million excess reserves. See how lending out excess reserves creates money? Consider an example. For the time being, we'll make two key assumptions. The public holds money in the form of deposits and uses only checks for transactions. All deposits are made to one sort of deposit taker, which we will simply call banks, and all deposits are made of one type, which allows checks to be written against them. We'll also assume the bank's reserve ratio for deposits is 0.1 or 10%. Some countries, e.g. the US, require banks to maintain a minimum reserve ratio. In Canada, each bank can decide its own. So Sabre A deposits $100 at Cabot Bank. As a result, Cabot Bank has new cash assets and liabilities of $1,000. Cabot Bank lends out $900 in excess reserves to borrower X, creating new loan assets and deposit liabilities of $900. Since borrower X's new deposits is money, the money supply has risen by $900. Borrower X spends the $900 loan money she just received, bringing her deposit account to zero. Cabot Bank's cash reserves also fall by $900 because when borrower X writes a $900 check to Sabre B, who has an account at Fraser Bank, Cabot X must transfer $900 of its cash reserves to Fraser Bank. Cabot Bank now has no liability to borrower X, but also has $900 less cash reserves. Cabot is left with $100 in cash reserves, which is desired 10% of its $1,000 in remaining deposit liabilities. Sabre B deposits $900 from borrower X's purchase in her account at Fraser Bank. The bank's cash assets and deposit liabilities both rise by $900. Fraser Bank lends out its $810 in excess reserves to borrower Y. This creates added loan assets and deposit liabilities of $810. Since borrower Y's new deposit is money, the money supply increases by $810. The money multiplier. Money multiplier, value by which an amount of excess reserves is multiplied by to give its maximum change in the money supply. That's money multiplier equals 1 divided by desired reserve ratio. So in that case, the money multiplier of, we'll calculate it here. So the actual money supply changed less than the maximum amount found using the above formula because some deposit money is withdrawn, he held his cash, the bank reserves fall accordingly. Bank account holder does not always keep their deposits in checking accounts. They may transfer them to term deposits such GICs, which are considered as money by some definitions, e.g. M1. Example, suppose the bank's desired reserves are 10% of deposits, the money multiplier is 10. 1 divided by 0.1 equals 10. So what is the money multiplier? So it'd be 10. So yeah, you do 1 divided by 0.10, and then you get 10. So in the money creation process, an initial change of money has a magnified effect on the money supply. The money multiplier is the value by which the initial change is multiplied to give the maximum change in money supply. Maximum change in money supply equals excess reserves times money multiplier. Suppose there's a new deposit cash in the banking system of $100 and reserve ratio of all banks 20%. New deposit of $100. $20 desired reserves, $80 excess reserves. You would take the 1 divided by the reserve ratio of all banks, which is 0.2, and get 5. And then you take the $80 in excess reserves times 5, the money multiplier, to get 400. That's the maximum change in the money supply. So it would be money multiplier times excess reserves. So 5 times 80 equals 400. So that'd be the change in the money supply here. So so you do the money multiplier times excess reserves equals the change in the money supply. Yeah, so the 5 times 80 equals 400. So $100 initial deposit, $400 bank system lending, money created through new loans, $400. So let's do this one. So a charter bank is $1 million in deposits and $40,000 in desired reserves. Its excess reserves are initially zero. So what is the reserve ratio in this banking system? So Curtis got 4%. That's correct. So yeah, Curtis, great job. So 40,000 divided by the 1 million. Yes. 4%. And then if a further $100,000 is deposited in the bank, by how much do the bank's desired reserves increase? The bank's excess reserves. So if you deposit $100,000, how much would the excess reserves increase? So 4,000. Yes. So so yeah, so since we gotta, so we need to, we need to put, yes, you're right. So put 4% of $100,000 in as desired reserves. So 4,000 of this would be desired reserves in this case. And then how much would be excess reserves? Yes, Christabel, excellent. And then 96,000 would be left over as excess reserves because we haven't used it yet. So it's sitting idle basically. So we want to use it for something. So 4,000 would go to desired reserves here. And then this would be the leftover. So it would be the leftover amount. So calculate the money multiplier in this case and identify the maximum increase in the money supply in the banking system due to the bank's increase in excess reserves. So what's the money multiplier here? So Christabel got 25. So yeah, 1 divided by 0.04. That would be 25. Excellent. Good job. 25 would be the money multiplier. And then what would be the increase in the money supply? So 2.4 million. So yeah, that seems about right. So yeah, it would be the 96,000 times 25. So does that equal 2.4 million? Excellent. Perfect. Great job team on that. That was really well done. So that's how you figure out how much the money supply increases. And I'll put this in the chat here. So great work. So yeah, we're probably gonna get exactly what they got here. So 4,000. Yep. Yeah, 4,000 desired, and then 96,000 excess. And then here the so here 2.4 million, yes. So 96,000 times 25, yes. So example, suppose a bank with a very conservative 50% desired reserve ratio receives a $1,000 deposit. What is the ripple effect throughout the banking system? So since the money multiplier is 1 divided by 0.5 equals 2, up to an additional $1,000 in deposits could be created for a total of $2,000. So in this case, what is the amount of excess reserves in this case? Yes, 500 excess. Excellent. So 500 excess. Perfect, Christabel. And then what is the money multiplier? Two. Yes. So 1 divided by 0.5 equals 2. Yes. And then what is the increase in the money supply? So use the equation excess reserves times money multiplier. So yeah, $1,000, yes. So yeah, it didn't increase by that much because they just didn't lend out enough. So it only increased by 1,000 from a $1,000 deposit because they didn't lend out enough. If they had a much lower desired reserve ratio and lent out more, the money supply would increase by a lot more. So they were just too conservative, and that's why the money supply didn't grow that much in this case. So being less risk adverse here was an issue. So the money supply didn't grow that much, but if they had like a reserve ratio of 10%, it would grow by a lot. So what you've just learned implies that banks can only make new loans after new deposit is received. This isn't quite accurate. So in real life, the process works in the opposite order. Banks decide how much they want to lend depending on the needs of borrowers. The banks view the creditworthiness of buyers. They make these loans simultaneously creating deposits and increasing the money supply. They then determine how much of their deposit liabilities they should keep in reserves, or in some countries, the reserve ratio is legally mandated. If they're short reserves, they can borrow another bank's access or borrow from the central bank, which creates the reserves out of thin air. They must pay interest on these borrowings. So bottom line, central banks do not control the money supply. Commercial banks do through their lending decisions. However, central banks control the interest rate banks must pay to borrow reserves when they're short. This then determines the minimum rate at which banks can afford to lend to customers. That in turn determines how much lending is done. So imagine what life would be if money didn't exist. How would people get the goods they needed? One way is to barter or trade for a good or service provided by someone else. Trading like this is hard because people who want to barter must at the same time want what other person wants to offer. So, for example, suppose you want to trade t-shirts for a pair of jeans. One friend might have the jeans but not want your t-shirts. So, what do the following things have in common? Cattle, corn, salt, copper, gold, silver, seashells, stones, and whale teeth. At different times in different places, they've all been used as money. So, money is anything that people will accept as payment for goods and services. So, money performs three important functions. It serves as a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. As we know, bartering is an inefficient way for people to meet economic needs. By contrast, money is an efficient medium of exchange or means through which goods and services can be exchanged. It allows precise, flexible pricing of goods and services. A store of value is something that holds its value over time. People do not have to spend their money all at one time. They can spend in the future. They know it will be accepted whenever they need to make purchases. So exchanging goods without involving money. So barter, yes. Anything that's accepted in exchange for goods and services. So money, yeah. So which of the following is the commonly accepted definition of money? So any good that is commonly accepted as a medium of exchange, yes. Money or other substance generally accepted as payment for goods and services, what's that called? So medium of exchange, yes. So banks in the economy. So when customers leave money in the bank pays the customer for the use of that money in the form of interest. The amount of interest paid is determined by the interest rate, which is usually a percentage of the total amount of money in the customer's account. The same thing occurs when a customer borrows money from a bank. You pay the money back with interest. Additional money is a thank you for letting me borrow. So money serves as a good unit of count or yardstick of economic value in exchanges. It allows people to measure the relative cost of goods and services. For example, a $20 t-shirt is worth two $10 gift cards, four $5 burritos, or 10 $2 bus rides. In the United States, the economic value of all goods and services can be measured by the dollar. So unit of count. So a student records her income and spending for the last month. She uses this function of money. So unit of count, yes. Payment made for use of borrowed money. Interest, yes. So money management, as we've learned, wants are unlimited and the resources available to meet those wants are limited. For this reason, people and businesses are motivated to save and invest their money. Saving and investing increases their financial resources. Saving and investing is a good way to gain assets. An asset is something of economic value that a person or company owns. Examples, houses, cars, building, etc. Savings is income not spent on immediate wants. People have many options for spending money, for saving money. Common options include savings accounts and stocks. Savings accounts are good when the one might be needed soon. Another option is investing in stocks. An investment is the use of money today in a way that earns future money or benefits. One way is to invest is to buy a stock or partial ownership in a company. Savers do this in the hopes that the stock's price will rise, then they can sell their stock and make a profit. The money saved in the bank generates what for the owners? Interest, yes. Savings is a way to put money aside for what? Future use, yes. Investments are what? So assets purchased with the goal of providing additional income for the asset itself. Yes. So great work, Christabel, Curtis, and Monica. So we'll cover, so what we're gonna do is cover another thing here. So let's try this here. It's more on banking here. Let's try this. And this will be our last activity for today. So to join, just scan this QR code, or I'll put the link in the chat here. Okay, so banking basics. So if you receive an email that appears to be from your bank or credit card company, what should you do? So don't respond. Like never respond and provide. Yeah, never give any of your information. Yeah, never give out any of your information. So savings account is a safe place to put money aside for a future goal or for unexpected expenses. Savings accounts, money market accounts, deposits, certificates of deposit, or CDs. So the 50, 30, 20 rules says that you should be saving how much of your monthly income each month. So they say 20% based on this rule. So, but ideally, if you can save more, that's recommended. But 20% minimum if it like if you can, but sometimes income is just too low to save that much. But if your income's high enough, then try to save at least 20%. Yeah. But like we said, the affordability in Canada has been so rough that it's hard to save 20%. So when you put money in a savings account, the bank rewards you by adding a small amount of extra money to the account called interest on a regular schedule. As a result, your money grows. Checking accounts allow you to utilize your cash when you need it. Checks and debit cards allow you to pay for things in other ways than using cash. So true or false? Checks and debit cards allow you to access your bank funds on the spot when shopping or dining out. So true, yes. Opening a savings or checking account. So you can open a savings and checking account and begin putting away money at any age. So like you'll need a parent if you're lower than the age of 18, but if you're over 18, you can just do it on your own. And you also need two forms of identification: birth certificate, state ID, province ID, driver's license, etc. Once you open a savings or checking account, you need to be responsible by doing the following thing: keep track of your transactions, deposits, withdrawals, checks, etc. Avoid overspending. Check your bank statements for accuracy. That's important. Just check if there's any inconsistencies. So check your bank statements regularly. Take precautions to protect your accounts and identity. So make sure enable two-factor authentication on your accounts. So if it's like a text message or an app or yeah, so get that. Make your password super hard. Um, Yeah, so make sure that have good antivirus software, have a VPN. Don't use public Wi-Fi when you're accessing your banking. That's very important information. And don't give out any of your information. If anyone asks you for any personal information, don't give it out. So it's very important to be careful out there. And so there's a course here that you can go through. It's under this PDF that I posted in week 11. You can potentially access this course's slide here. So slide 10 in this PDF. So identity theft and fraud are very common, and one way people can take advantage of you in this way is through your financial documents, checks, statements, receipts, etc. Check all the options below. There are ways you can protect yourself. So yeah, all these would be important. So make sure you shred everything. So shred all your documents, because just be careful because people can check your garbage. That does happen. So people can check your garbage and get the documents. So always shred documents. Never click on links from sources you don't know because it could be a virus. Also, don't send personal or financial information out via email or text. Close your browser when you're done making a purchase online. So make sure to follow all those recommendations there. And then if you receive an email or phone call from someone claiming to your bank or credit card company, so what should you do? So yeah, don't give them any information. Don't